bruh, bruh, bruh. Hey kids, remember when you used to wake up early for Saturday morning cartoons and your biggest worries in life were whether or not the princess was in this or another castle? Let's go back there, because it's Throwback Thursday. Well, hey there everybody. It is time to talk about Rastan, which, my goodness, holy moly. What a game this is. Super fun. Super awesome, very, very interesting, and I have personal history with this game that goes way, way back. So yeah, it's really a cool game from back in the day, and those of us who remember it very fondly. If you don't, then you're about to know about it fondly. So let's get into it. So, Rastan was released as Rastan's Saga in 1987 in Japan, released to the rest of the world in 1988, released on a bunch of stuff. There was an arcade version. It was released on the Apple II, the Commodore 64, the Sega Game Gear. It was on IBM compatibles, the ZX Spectrum, and most importantly, the version we're playing here and the version that I played first, and quite frankly, the only version I own, is on the Sega Master System. So yeah, this game was released on a lot of things because it's super cool and it feels super epic. Back in the day, there was an entire genre of fantasy type of movie, but not just movie, also games and books and all kinds of stuff. People called it Swords and Sandals, which is exactly what you think. Really, it's your Conan the Barbarian types, or is that Conan? Conan O'Brien, Conan the Barbarian. Pretty sure I got it right. Yep. So, I'm most familiar with Swords and Sandals as a 1980s concept, with the aforementioned barbarian, and with, like, your Beastmasters and whatnot, that He-Man movie, and in fact, the entire He-Man franchise, guy with a sword wearing furry underwear with no shirt. Yeah, that's the vibe right there. That's what we're going for. But it predates it by quite a bit. People will even lump in movies like Ben-Hur and whatnot into the Swords and Sandals genre, taking it all the way back to the 50s and even before that, because there were also a bunch of Hercules movies from back in the day that were Swords and Sandals, the Goliath movies. Also, interestingly, there was like everything like your Jason and the Argonauts type movies, anything featuring the miniature work, the claymation work of Ray Harryhausen. Fantastic. Anyway, good stuff. So the concept goes back a long way, and it just, this game plays into the tropes of a genre that people already loved, which is smart. It's a smart thing to do. When you're laying down a new entity in the in a pre-existing genre, is just lean into it. And so Rastan is this hack and slash platformer with lots of cool game lots of really cool tricks up its sleeve, we'll say. Things that for the era we really hadn't seen a ton. And the fact that it was released on the Master System is really kind of remarkable. Late in the Master System's life, by the way. Because, yeah, that's how that went. But yeah, I do have some personal history with this game, and I want to lay this down because, I always like to lay out my personal connection to a game if there is one. And this one is quite strong. See, I grew up in a very small town but it was also the county seat of the county that we were in. And which, how does that happen? Well, it's old. It's an old town. It's not a big town, but it's been there for a while. Anyway, and so it's the county seat of this county, even though the surrounding towns are much bigger. Um, but because we're the county seat, we had the county fair, which was like literally a quarter mile from my house. The county fairgrounds, like it just had to cross one street and walk a little bit, and bada bing, bada boom, I was there. And so, like, whenever the fair came to town, that was it. Like, it was so exciting and so much fun. I'm sure you all know how much fun fairs are. It'd sell you on the concept of riding rides and eating foods that have been fried in oil and, yeah, all of the delights thereof. But anyway, yeah, so there's this guy in town who sold video games, and he was like, you couldn't go very many places to buy video games, and he like sold them out of his house. And he was one of my dad's really good friends, which was awesome because we often got deals on games. Now, granted, we were mostly buying stuff for the Atari 8-bit home computer, and for my dad's 386 at the time. Yeah. Anyway, old computing. But I stopped by this guy's booth because there was a game that everybody was very excited about. And that was Rastan, which, like, everybody's like, my God, it feels so epic. It's like I'm Conan of the Barbarics. Yeah, I know I'm saying it wrong. I'm doing it on purpose. Conan the Barbarian. There you go. You're welcome. Anyway, it feels like I'm Conan the Barbarian. And, yeah, everybody loved it immediately, was drawn to it because, you know, like I said, it plays perfectly off those tropes. And not only that, but, like, it just has so many attractive gameplay features. I mean, those swinging ropes, we had seen that in, like, Jungle Hunt, you know, on the Atari. But those are some very old graphics that look mostly terrible. And the thing that people forget, those of us who were around at the time will remember, like, the jump from Atari graphics to, like, NES and Sega Master System graphics was massive. You know, you look at it now and it's like, oh, so pixely, so blocky, how quaint. But at the time it was like, no, this looks awesome. Like, you know, and then when the Super Nintendo came out, we're like, oh, so it's just real now? It's like HD realism is how it felt to us at the time. Yeah. And by the way, in case you're wondering, you know, the difference, like I've mentioned this before, I am 2K gaming. You know, I play at a 2K resolution because 2K monitors cheap. You can pick them up for cheap, is not a problem. And 2K looks almost as good as 4K, and 4K looks almost as good as 8K. Therefore, 2K is not that far from 8K. It's not that much more mind-blowing to watch 8K gaming than it is to watch 2K gaming. And I know that people want you to think that there's a massive difference. It is not the same difference as it was going from Atari graphics to NES and Master System graphics. It's not. Like, that was a world apart. And so everybody's looking at this game, and we're blown away by how incredible the graphics look. You know, so much characterization in the way that the pixels move. You know, your dude is unmistakably a swords and sandals hero who moves like a swords and sandals hero. And the other really cool thing is that you immediately have access, depending on where you go, but like there are multiple places you can go within the level, but you immediately gain access to tons of cool weapons. You just got to kill people and then jump and get them, so which is easier said than done sometimes. because yeah, while the gameplay is generally excellent, it is not perfect. And so some of the platforming, you'll fall off stuff when you didn't mean to. But the whole thing of like sliding down ramps and jumping onto ropes, like just so action based for the time, like it really did blow people's minds. And the funny thing is, the only reason that this guy had Rastan out is because nobody was buying Sega Master System stuff and he was trying to liquidate it. And yeah, and then I had a friend who, like, because I had to go to friends' houses to play NES stuff because I didn't have an NES until I was 20, because I had to buy one for myself when I was in college. And that was the beginning of never get rid of a video game console, and I never have since then, and I'm very happy to have not. Anyway, regardless, so yeah, nobody cared about the Sega Master System. Everybody wanted to play NES, but when people saw this game, they were like, oh, maybe there's something to the Master System. And I had a friend who had a Master System that nobody would come over to play. And then all of a sudden, everybody in the neighborhood was like, dude, do you have Rastan? And he's like, yeah. and so we all went over and played Rastan for like ever. Because it is such an incredible game. It really is. It's super cool. You've seen the footage. You get the gist of what it is. There's not a lot to explain here. Like, there's platforms, there's ropes, there's hazards, there's enemies. Everything is based off of, these sort of historical, mythological type of things. More mythological than historical. There is a whole backstory about, like, it's you're trying to reclaim a throne and whatnot. Yeah, whatever. Who cares? I've never cared about the story behind this game because it's all action. And there are cool things, spikes that shoot out of walls if you're not careful and looking out where you're going. And just all kinds of things that we just really had not seen in a game like this. It was the first of its kind, and we loved it so much. And, when I was thinking about what I wanted to play today, because I was like, you know what, I'm going to choose something that I haven't played in a while, because, that's what I feel like doing. I feel like grabbing one of my own games that I haven't played in a minute. And when I picked this one up, I was immediately like, oh yeah, that's the stuff. That's what it is. That's what it's made out of. Because, it is such a fun game to play. Now, obviously, I'm not perfect at it. Make a lot of dumb jumps and whatnot, fall into a lot of pits and a lot of hazards and whatnot. And there's this part where you can skip most of the level and get up to that first boss just by jumping up over an up ramp and onto a rope and across a fire pit. Much easier said than done. You're going to take a lot of damage. But the fun thing is, once you defeat those bosses, then one by one, it's making progress in the game, but also, like, you clear the stage, you go to the next stage, full health no matter what. You have a limited number of continues. I believe it's 5. I used all 5. The gameplay that you will see is just completely uncut, exactly what I laid down. I just played it a little bit to make sure I knew what the buttons were, and then I just hit record and had myself a time. Because this game is so much fun. I cannot say it enough. The core idea of playing games is that they be fun. And this one is both fun and cool and fun. For those of us who grew up, reading Dragonlance and, playing D&D and all that sort of stuff, like is it watching Conan the Librarian, it is perfect. It is exactly what we needed at the time, and we immediately loved it, and we were not wrong. That's what you need to know. Like, yes, the controls are not perfect sometimes. Yes, you will fail at things that you think that you should not have failed at. There's like a big swinging rope gap that is so hard to hit perfectly. It's the one with the barracudas. So hard to hit that gap. And then if you don't, you're going to lose half your life jumping back to the moving block to catch the rope again. Yeah, it is old school hard. No getting around that. But like, people still love ghosts and goblins, ghouls and ghosts, and all of those that are the same game under different names. Why? Because excellence holds up years later. This is excellent. Let's give it a final score. Okay, so final score wise, we are going a 9.5 out of a possible 10. Conan the Librarians. See, I told you I could say it right. I got it. I totally got it. Anyway, thanks for being here in this one, people. I will see you in the next one. Okay, bye.